Conscience Guide Team by Sheepdog and Shepherd.
Conscience Guide Team 5.6 Conscience and Mental Health. I love it when Shepherd fills my pool. He says it's great for my morale and overall well-being, but I just like to get in my pool and splash around.
It includes our social, psychological, and emotional well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we make choices, handle stress, and relate to others. It is important in every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. This is a definition of mental health. Is there a relationship between our conscience and our mental health? In preparation for this episode, I reviewed a book entitled Modern Clinical Psychiatry. The only reference to conscience in the entire book was in the index, which directed the reader to the section on the superego. The authors of Modern Clinical Psychiatry viewed the conscience or superego purely in negative terms, serving as a rigid force, running roughshod over the individual with demands and threats of punishment. Furthermore, they asserted that the conscience or superego had its origin in parents, whom they also viewed in negative terms as rigid, authoritarian, and demanding absolute obedience. A review of ancient literature, various cultures, and our own personal experience suggests that the authors of modern clinical psychiatry are themselves rigid, authoritarian, and demanding absolute acceptance of their opinions. If their negative view regarding conscience and moral authority is the generally accepted view in the realm of psychiatry, it should come as no surprise that according to one study, at least 1 in 6 Americans takes a psychiatric drug over the course of a year. There was a man who served in his country's Navy. During his sojourn in the Navy, he stole money. He was never discovered. However, as he aged, his conscience reminded him of his theft and would not allow him to rest. Finally, he sent money, twice the amount that he stole, to the senior chaplain of that naval service. For whatever reason, that man saw a relationship between his conscience, his mental health, and his spiritual health. Likewise with Babylonian King Nebuchadnezzar. One day he had a dream. The dream terrified him. He summoned his magicians, enchanters, sages, and astrologers, but none of them could interpret the dream. Finally, a man by the name of Daniel appeared and interpreted the dream. He pleaded with King Nebuchadnezzar to humble himself before God and stop oppressing the poor. Otherwise, he would face consequences. Nebuchadnezzar did not heed Daniel's counsel. Consequently, Nebuchadnezzar was driven among men. He lived with the beasts of the field. He ate grass like an ox. His body was wet with the dew. His hair was as long as eagle's feathers, and his fingernails and toenails were like bird's claws. The time that he lived in this manner was the exact period of time that Daniel had foretold. At the end of this period of time, Nebuchadnezzar thanked God for restoring his reason and his senses and restoring him to his position. What do you think? Do you think there is a relationship between your conscience and your mental health? Do you think that there is a spiritual dimension to your conscience and your mental health? Do you believe that your conscience is derived from your parents or from a much higher authority? Do you view your conscience only in negative terms, or do you see a positive dimension to your conscience? What do you think about the role of redemption, reconciliation and restitution when it comes to matters pertaining to conscience.
Special thanks to our references.
Special thanks to voiceover artists Joelle and Rick and content consultant Ed.
Thank you for watching our presentation on matters pertaining to conscience. Please subscribe and offer your comments. Produced by Sheepdog and Shepherd, aka M. Gilbert Steiner, author of The Short Man of Nuremberg.